This is an interesting bill package. This is one we actually had a hearing in Senate Labor Committee. So the first bill, 5164, will create a requirement that would make a call center employer have to give notification if they were going to move elsewhere. It's basically a notification for layoffs. And there was a threshold. I think it was 30%, if I remember off the top of my head. If they were going to move 30% or more of their call centers, then they'd have to provide some type of notification. So, well, okay, I guess that sounds okay. I don't know what makes call centers so much more unique than any other industry. Well, then come to find out there's a federal WARN Act, which I wasn't aware of. And I kind of did a brief cursory overlap to see how much this WARN Act overlaps with the call center. They seem to overlap almost perfectly. So I don't really see the purpose of 5164. I also found it really interesting that Leo was opposed to it, because in my experience in the legislature, I've often found that bureaucrats want more authority, but they don't want more responsibility. And in this case, they didn't take it. They would have gotten more FTEs, they would have got more authority. And I guess I can only speculate. I presume they see this as a waste of their time. So they didn't give an explanation as to why they're opposed, but it's not very often that a department has come and opposed a bill in front of a Democrat majority committee. So that was kind of telling. That's way outside of the norm that I've seen so far in this 2 years. So 5164, I think, has no merit whatsoever. When I asked in committee if there was some type of genesis, like this idea had to come from somewhere. We're not that creative of human beings where we can just fabricate call center bills out of nowhere. Something must have happened. There must be some giant need. Something happened. Well, apparently some call center moved like multiple terms ago. A member came up with an idea that this would be a good idea. They didn't get it done. And then another member picked it up after that member was out of the legislature and they couldn't get it done. I don't remember all the details. This was a few weeks ago, and I have twins, so I can't remember everything anymore. But so there was never really an explanation as to what made call centers so special, and the genesis didn't really even make that much sense as to this being a huge problem that would necessitate us staying up this late, spending this much time deliberating. So 5164 really doesn't make any sense. 5165, I was interested in this one. After seeing how terrible the SOAR program has been, how terrible we've been at incentives, how much I've learned about how government can't do incentives, I was on track for this one. I was tracking. Basically, this bill says if you have an incentive, you leave, your call center goes away out of the state, your incentive goes away. It's a clawback. Now that is interesting. I like the idea, but let's see if there's any merit to it. So I asked, basically, we need 2 questions to be answered if we're going to decide if this bill has any merit. The first one, does the Michigan Strategic Fund currently have any contracts with any call centers? And the second question, if they do, and this is a big if, I don't even know how many call centers we have in the state. I'd be really interested to know if we have any large call centers at all. I'm not aware of any. I'd be really interested to see what percentage of our state, and if you added up all the jobs in the state, how many of them are worked at call centers? And like, where does it rank of industries? Where does call centers rank? You know, there's usually an argument, is agriculture or automotives the number one? That's a good, interesting conversation. I think call centers might be the bottom. It might be the last. I could be wrong about that. I don't have any data, but no data was provided in order to make any such claim. So, the second question was, it's pretty common in just standard boilerplate contracts. If you're going to do an incentive, you don't live up to your end of the bargain, we're going to claw that money back. I used to do, when I worked at the Bureau of Investments, I used to work on legal documents like this. And if, we were always limited partners. If a general partner didn't live up to their end of the obligations in between the four corners of the page, well, then we get our money back. We took care of the pensioners. We had a fiduciary responsibility. And I couldn't believe that the lawyers at the Michigan Strategic Fund or the MEDC would be this negligent to not have such common boilerplate clawback provisions that even some entry-level analyst at the Michigan Bureau of Investments would have known of. So I asked those two questions, and I didn't get any answers. So I went and spoke to some representative from the MEDC after, and they did not really seem, again, this is an opinion. I don't want to put words in their mouth. It would have been nice if somebody was able to come and testify so we could have got something official. So I'm, conjecture, I'm speculating a little bit here, but they didn't seem all excited about this bill. They did oppose the bill, by the way. So I don't think it's completely unfounded with what my perception was of their reaction. And so I said, we didn't get anything publicly, but do you know off the cuff, could you find an answer for me? Do we have any contracts with call centers? And they said no. I thought, well, that's interesting. Well, if you did have any, would you have had any clawback provisions in them? And, well, they didn't really answer that question because they didn't really seem necessary since they don't have any anyway. So I don't really see, seems to be a huge waste of time for everybody, especially all of us right now. So, all that being said, why do you care? If this is a big nothing burger, why would you care to come put a card of opposition in? The best I could figure was that there are some businesses, like I have a business in my district, they're a large manufacturer. They actually have a call center as like just a small portion of their business. They're a large manufacturer, but they work directly with contractors. They don't sell at retailers. So if they have a contractor who has an emergency at 3 a.m. for their product, they want to make sure that somebody is there because they take extreme pride in the products that they offer. So if there's some type of meltdown with their product, they want the contractor to be able to call at 3 a.m. and they want somebody who knows how to answer this. And so they'll have, 10, 15 employees that are working in a call center, and they have thousands, maybe a couple thousand employees that work in the manufacturing part. Well, I think the MEDC is concerned that if we had this provision in place, these types of large manufacturers are going to walk away from types of incentives because of some small call center provision that really is innocuous and it's not germane really at all to the business or the incentives that we would be trying to do. So I could go on for these reasons and a lot more, and because I feel like these bills are a complete waste of everybody's time. Most importantly, the taxpayers' time who are paying for us to be here tonight. I'm a no on these bills, and I urge my colleagues to be a no as well. So thank you, Madam President.